Tonight, it's Live with Vince Elliott. Live with Vince Elliott. Tonight on Live with Vince Elliott, from Western Michigan University, Cooley Innocence Project, Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon. And keeping the show on track, co-host Erica Mack. Erica Mack. Who's the Mac? Let's get it. Hey everybody, it's Vince Elliott with another episode of Live with Vince Elliott. Yes, sir. And I am Vince Elliott.
And I am Erica Mack, and welcome to another edition of the Vince Elliott Show. Just before we get started, as usual, remember y'all to go ahead and go subscribe to the Vince Elliott on YouTube. Subscribe to the Vince Elliott on YouTube. Also, we need you to go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Make sure that you're smashing and asking your friends to smash and your families to smash. I don't know if smash would be a good word, but smash the subscribe button. And
you can't just hit it, you gotta smash.
Right, smash it. Remember to ask your questions and comments on today's show. We have a great topic today. I think it's a very informative topic that you all will get some information from that you can use and share with all people of all kinds. So remember that. Right. I think that's it, Vince, for today.
Yeah. Well,
so go ahead.
You gave a great segue. You can back your mic off just a little bit. I know I asked you to turn it up, but yeah, it's a great segue because this topic we're talking about today is something that it's just one of those things that we don't really think about unless somebody in our family or somebody close to us gets involved in it. What we're talking about is what happens if you are wrongly convicted. I'm not talking about, everybody in jail says they're innocent, mostly anyway, right? But I'm talking about somebody who actually is innocent. And for one reason or another, they were convicted and they were wrongfully jailed and, in some cases, sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole.
None.
Wow. I can't even really wrap my mind around that. So
I didn't stare straight, and I couldn't even take it for 3 hours into prison, and that's just walking. That's even not like prison. That's just regular jail. So
yeah. So tonight we're talking to Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon, and she actually, for lack of a better term, heads up a group of lawyers and students who work on getting people released once they find factual evidence, undisputable evidence that these people are wrongfully convicted. So she'll do a better job at explaining it than I can do. And so we'll talk to her this evening, and she'll be on shortly. And just the thought of that, it just kind of sets me back. So I'm really excited to talk about this today, and I'm really happy for the people that they were able to get exonerated.
Absolutely. Yeah. So look forward to that. How was your week?
I say this often as I fade the music out. The thing is, it just seems like there's Saturday after Friday, right? There's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then
Friday.
Like Thursday or Friday. It's like, where did the days go, man? I feel like I'm busy, but at the same time, I feel like, there's so much more I could do. And then I look up and we're right back. So it seems like I just talked to you guys 3-4 days ago. That's all.
I know. Well, it was 3 days ago, but still, it moved really fast.
But there was nothing, that stands out, that was really special about this week. It's sort of more the same, So
yeah.
What
So
about you?
that's kind of. I didn't do too much. What day was that? I think it was Tuesday. So I'm walking past a room that I keep my bowling equipment in, and one of my balls that has been sitting in a corner minding its own business, nothing else. I go to look at it, and it's completely cracked all the way around.
Hey, so you start asking people in the house, who touched my bowling ball? They know. First of all, let me pause there for a second. For those of you who don't know, Erica is about 13 steps away from completing a 12-step program when it comes to her bowling addiction. She has, I mean, to the point where I think
enjoy bowling.
I think no. I think her husband cut her back because she was up to like 3 or 4 leagues at a time, and so that gives you a little reference to the fact that I'm sure you went slap happy off when you saw that crack in your bowling ball.
I didn't, because bowling balls are known to do that depending on the temperature. The house probably was a little bit colder than usual for it, so I'm not happy, but I know that I'm just gonna have to go ahead, suck it up, and get another one. As a matter of fact, I told my husband today, and he was like, "Did that ball cost $300?" I was like, "Calm down. No, it did not cost $300." He's like, "Oh, okay, moving on. You'll be all right." Oh, it's like, "You can still bowl with it, then." I was like, "No, you cannot."
He seems to lack the real compassion, for
serious
what you were
compassion.
feeling.
Lacked it all, but. Anyways, yeah, and I just went to the farmers market. That's my first time this season, so I was really happy to do that this week. So yes.
Oh, okay. To the farmers market. Well,
Yeah, they had
I
great
don't get
fruits
out
and
like that.
vegetables. You don't want any vegetables.
I'm not opposed to vegetables. I just have a sugar problem. Now I will eat vegetables. Put a little sugar on there, and we good. No, I do eat a decent amount of vegetables when How did we get on that? This is not about my dietary. Anyway, what's going on in the world? We got some in other news. I think we need to get to another news. Deidre, kick it.
And now for news you may or may not be able to use. News other than Trump, COVID, or civil unrest. It's In Other News. Live from one of our remote studios, it's news anchor Erica Mack.
Well, hello there. In other news, this week, the story of the humpback whale that stuns whale watchers. Back in February, whale watchers were on a trip out in Hawaii. And they were on this little, I
got a problem already.
I know, right? This airboat, and like one of those ones that look like you just blow it up. You take an air pump and just pump it up and put some air on it. Here comes this big 3-ton whale swimming across, him and a school of whales swimming across. And so the whale kept getting closer and closer to the boat and showing off a little bit to the viewers that was watching. The whale raises his fin, and they all high five the whale as he goes past. The footage just got out, but this happened back in like February, early February, late January. So I was like, that would have, I don't know.
Let me see it. Let me just make sure. I want to make sure I got the story right. These people go to Hawaii.
They go to Hawaii.
And they're out looking for whales.
They're not necessarily looking, but would like to see some here and there. Yes. They would like to see some.
See, this is where I'm having the problem.
They was probably looking more for dolphins. I would have been. But
whales are like how many tons? They're like, why am I bothering the whale? He's out doing his thing. I belong on land, and he belongs in the water. And so you go out looking for this 2 tons of fun, and what do you do when you find him? So
you snap a picture. That's what you do. Not for him to be up on you like, hey.
And the whale. But here's the part that really gets me. Who is going to take the chance that the whale is going to give them a high five? Who are these people?
That wasn't the intention. The intention was to snap a picture. If I could snap a picture, because we're out whale watching anyways, they're blowing through because it's mating season for them. They're generally not in that type of water because they're in Alaska, but they were down in Hawaii because it was warmer. How the mating season, they come down for a mating season. And so happened this whale just decided to, give them a little extra show and move on over to the boat.
And gave them
and throw the fin up. Yes.
I would have been afraid that we was going to tip over and die. I would have been screaming like a girl, as they say. We going to die.
That's
So
what I said. I said, I don't know what I probably would have just fainted. I've never
there's
fainted, but that would have been the first time.
I can guarantee you I would not have been the person giving the whale the high five. You would have saw
I
me
probably would have.
in I would have been in the corner somewhere doing like that's the picture you would have saw me doing this.
Right. Yeah, it'll be the driver of the boat who actually got that picture. They love that type of stuff. So yeah,
I'd be trying to find a way to make some money at that picture. That's for sure. Anyway,
that's it. Yeah. Then our other story today. 50 lawns in 50 states. So, what's his name? His name was Rodney Smith. Rodney Smith believes that a part of his fulfilling his God's plan for his life is to touch 50 lawns through 50 states by mowing their lawns. So he's taking a road trip. He has actually touched 47 of the 48 continental states in the United States. Because, Alaska and Hawaii, you would definitely need a boat or a plane to get there. See,
here's the problem. I always have to find a problem with these stories, right? The thing is that if this gives Christians a bad name, right? Because they think, okay, we're really, just really strange and crazy people. Because if God told you, he felt led that he needed to do a lawn in each state. All right. So if you feel like you're doing God's work, why not go and cut the lawns in your city of the elderly, of the home, well, not the home, I'm sorry, of the elderly, or of, your neighbor or things like that. Why go and cut one lawn in each state? So did he accomplish his goal? Did he fulfill his life's mission?
Yes, he has. And actually, he has like 22,000 followers on Instagram, 40,000 followers on Twitter, like 66,000 followers on Facebook, and they help fund him to do this. So he drives to these states to be able to cut lawns of those who are in need. Could be single mothers, veterans, senior citizens, and those type of things. It's a really good thing. He
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm not dismissing the fact that he was
inspired by another person who did do this. So I thought that was pretty good. But cutting one line, my own line, not that I cut grass. I don't. That was back in the day when I lived at home with my mother. Yeah, we all cut the grass. But when we had to cut the grass, I wasn't interested.
I'm gonna give him, his props for, he is helping some people. He's doing something good. I think it's a little extreme how he's going about it. I would have preferred that he said, I can't say what God told him. Who am I to say what God told him? But, I have my doubts about that. But at any rate, you're definitely not going to hear that in the news. You're not going to hear that anywhere else, folks, except for right here on In Other News. And exactly. And here's the last thing I'll say about that is that people are funding for this type of thing. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And first of all, let me just take a moment to thank everybody who has helped to contribute to this show. It's been a lot less people than I suspected, but I have to acknowledge the people who have done so. So thank you guys so much for supporting, whether through Cash App or the GoFundMe, which is about to end, I think, in 2 days. But thank you for your support. And, because we need support to be able to go live. And speaking of going live, I got a pet peeve, Erica, and I'm going to share with my audience in a unique way. My pet peeve, and I think you share this pet peeve with me, is for you folks out there who go live and you do these different habits that drive me crazy. So today I'm going to show you one of the pet peeves of mine when people go live that drives me crazy. Deidre, kick it.
Okay, boys and girls, it's time for another episode of What Not to Do when going live on Facebook.
Let's see, we on? Well, I'm gonna wait for a few more people. Come on up in here. I got something to talk about. I'm gonna wait. Y'all get on up in here. I know when I go live, my people jump on.
So I'll wait. Just a few more people. What's up, Chuck? Yeah, just waiting for a few more people. What? I'm waiting on a few more people. I'll do a few more. That's fun. Oh, just a few more people. Yeah, just a few more people. No, that's not enough people. I'm gonna wait. I got something really hot. I got something important to say. I gotta wait for some more people. I gotta wait for some more people. Yeah, those of you who came on here earlier, y'all not as important as the people I'm waiting on. So I gotta wait for some more important people. I can't tell just you. I had to wait for more people. I'll wait for a few more people.
That's exactly how they do. They just wait on. Erica, you know I'm telling the truth. They sit there and they're just like, and here's what they don't get. More people watch on the replay than watch live. So as soon as you hit that record button, just go for it. I mean, if you want to do a quick recap when, 10, 20 more people come on or however many people you got expected to come on and say, hey, we just talked about X, Y, and Z. If you want to see all of it, go to replay and watch from the beginning and get on with your life. But those of us who get on, listen, if I see you go live and I like what your content is and I jump on as soon as I get that notification, now I got to sit there and wait for more people. That drives me.
Tiffany Hayes said, don't wait, just start.
Thank you. What's up, Tiffany?
Yes. Oh my goodness. SC says, oh my gosh, it's a pet peeve of hers as well. I know, it's just so annoying. It's like, okay, for that very reason, I'm not coming back and watch your replay either. That's how I feel. I don't want to watch that either. So,
well, I tell you what, we got a great show for you guys, and we're going to get right into it. But first, we want to take a quick little break, and so we'll come right back right after this. Hey, everybody, it's Vince Elliott saying thank you for your support. Real quick, I just want to come on and say a few things real quick. First of all, you guys are amazing because some of you are supporting the show by viewing us every single week. You're financially supporting. You're telling your family and friends. People are going to the YouTube page, subscribing, hitting the notifications bell. We are growing by leaps and bounds. We got a team now. We got Erica Mack, who keeps the show on track, my co-host. We got a producer, super duper producer, Deidre. She's in the background holding it down. And we are now at a place where we are opening the window of opportunity for sponsorship. That's right. If you know of someone who has a business, or if you yourself have a business whose product or service align with our brand, we want to hear from you. Send us an email at thevinceelliott@gmail.com and we will send you the information. We have packages as low as $100 a week. Can't beat that. Those prices are going to go up as our audience grows, so you want to get in where you fit in. Also, if you want to support the show, simply go to the Cash App now there on the screen, $live with Vince Elliott. 1 L, 1 T in Elliott, so your money gets routed to the right place and gets used appropriately. In the meantime, we will continue to bring you information, education, inspiration, motivation, and yes, a few laughs. Look out for Lil V. He's always trying to get on the show. So in the meantime, let's get back to the show.
The information provided during this program is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. The WMU Cooley Law School Innocence Project only accepts applications directly from prisoners. Prisoners may write the project at Cooley Law School Innocence Project, 300 South Capitol Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48933. For general inquiries, email innocence@cooley.edu.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for tonight. Her name is Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon. She is the director of the Western Michigan University Cooley Law School Innocence Project. Established in 2001, the Cooley Innocence Project works to secure the release of factually innocent Michigan prisoners through the use of post-conviction DNA testing and by challenging unreliable forensic practices. The Cooley Innocence Project has screened over 5,800 cases and exonerated 4 men: Kenneth Wanimko, Nathaniel Hatchett, Danye Davis, and Ladura Watkins. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest tonight, Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon. There she is.
Hey.
Hey guys, how's it
Welcome.
going?
Well, thank you for being
Welcome
here.
to the show. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Listen, we are really excited to interview you and talk about this topic. I'll be honest with you, and of course I am biased, but I've really not heard a lot of live stream shows talk about this. I haven't heard a lot about this on the news. This is something that, kind of, if it doesn't affect you directly, you really don't think about it or talk about it quite a bit. So just to kind of, before we even get into, the whole topic, I just want to give you an opportunity to go ahead and introduce yourself. And, I gave some information, but just to say whatever you want to say to our viewers. You got the mic.
Okay, thanks a lot. Well, as you said, Cooley Law School's Innocence Project, we focus on trying to obtain post-conviction DNA testing. And I think what's really important for your listeners to know is that the bulk of the work is actually done by law students who are supervised by myself and licensed attorneys that work in my office. And it's not glamorous work. It's very hard work. We have to review a lot of historical documents, but we, look for biological evidence and we try to test it. And we also are quite discriminating of forensic practices that are not considered actual science.
Okay. So it's students who are doing a lot of the work.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. But you're, like you said, you're hands-on guiding them, making sure that, everything is being abided by legally and all of that type of thing. And so I would imagine the first thing that comes to my mind is if I hear of an organization like that or an entity that does that kind of work, I'm like, of course, not me, but if I were a person, or let's just say a person incarcerated, I'm reaching out to you, whether I think whether I know I'm guilty or not, just in the off chance that there's some technical way that you can get me off to, get me exonerated. Is that something that is possible? And I like to start off our conversations with a lot of myth busters. So there are cases where people may have been guilty to a certain degree, or maybe they were actually guilty. However, because the police did not follow proper protocol, maybe they didn't have a warrant, evidence had to be thrown out, these people now get released. Do you work with that type of situation as well? Or is it just simply you have to be a person who factually did not do this? There's nothing supporting that, not only that they did it, but maybe there's evidence supporting that they didn't do it. How's that work?
Yes, because we focus on DNA and setting aside forensic practices that aren't reliable, we have two broad-based criteria. One is you have to be claiming that you're factually innocent, not claiming a legal error. And secondly, then our office needs to determine a way to establish that, which you can imagine isn't very easy because most of the time the individual who's writing to us has been convicted. They've exercised all their rights for legal appeals. And then we're trying to create basically a story that was never told. Interesting.
So you just said something. So am I understanding you to say that you guys don't step in until they've exhausted all of their legal appeals?
Not necessarily, but again, once a criminal trial is over and someone is convicted of a crime, the next step typically is an appeal. And in most states and under most circumstances, that appeal only looks at the trial record, what was put before the court in the original trial. And in a case in which someone is factually innocent, obviously the story that was put forth in the original trial is not the true story.
Okay. Interesting.
So understanding that information may not have been true, what could have caused that person to be wrongfully convicted outside of that other information as far as the story being not told right during the actual trial?
Yeah, great question, Erica. The leading cause of wrongful conviction is misidentification. Everything from an honest mistake by an eyewitness to actually framing someone that, trying to suggest that someone is the perpetrator when in fact, perhaps law enforcement or witnesses involved know that isn't the person that committed the crime. But there's also a number of other factors that contribute. And what we find is that in a given case where we are able to establish that someone's innocent, we usually see 2 or 3 of those contributing factors come into play. So some other common ones are the fact that in the criminal justice system, certain forensic practices to this day are still admitted into court, but there's no scientific support for their use. An example of that would be someone testifying, linking a particular person to a particular crime scene through bite mark impression. Scientifically, that's not possible to do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the same
So,
thing.
right. So what are the misconceptions with DNA evidence outside of like you just said, bite marks or something like that, most individuals wouldn't, a lay like me would not know?
Well, first of all, DNA science is science. So, so the government obviously now uses DNA technology to actually prove guilt, but it can also be used, particularly in older cases where DNA wasn't available, to prove innocence. So what DNA can do is, depending on the quality of the evidence, right? Because evidence in the crimes that we're reviewing typically are old crimes, and the evidence may not have been maintained well or may have been lost or even destroyed. If we're fortunate enough to find that evidence and actually bring the best science to bear, we have the ability through DNA to actually identify a particular person.
Okay.
So now you mentioned that, the cases that you work on, they're older cases. And you also mentioned that it's the prisoner that has to reach out to you guys to for you to determine whether you want to take their case or not. So I'm trying to understand, why is it that, people are waiting, 20, 30, 40 years before you guys get involved? I mean, if I've exhausted my appeals, my second appeal or my third appeal, however far it goes, I mean, is it that they don't know that you exist, or what? Why not a person, within that first, if they're sentenced for life, for example, why not after that first, 5 years when they've had their first or second appeal? I don't know how long this process takes, but why aren't these people, and correct me if I'm wrong, because they could be doing it, but why aren't these people seeking your help in the first 5 to 10 years as opposed to 20 and 30? And I'm making an assumption there.
Yeah, so I think more recent convictions, it's more likely that prisoners are reaching out to us sooner. I think it's just more the historical context of DNA. DNA wasn't used in the criminal justice system at all until the late 80s. And then in the 90s is really when we started to see DNA testing being used. Also, DNA testing has improved significantly. So what we find in our work is someone may have written to us 10 years ago, and perhaps the law did not allow for DNA testing at that time, or they didn't meet the criteria to ask a court for testing. But the law may have changed since then, or the testing has improved. We often review cases and can't find the evidence, but don't always know a definitive answer about that evidence. So for a variety of reasons, we might reopen that case in a few years. So I don't think it's really true that prisoners don't write when they know the resource is available, but the resource generally has not been available in Michigan since 2001.
Right. So when you have so when you have a prisoner, for instance, like you say, back in the 80s and things like that, I know a lot of times a lot of male individuals would definitely get found guilty for rape and things like that, and knowing that the DNA support was not there then, and the evidence is not necessarily still there as well, and that person is like, I am innocent, I did not do it. How do you go about, or even would you select them as a possible candidate for the project, or how would you, if you did select them, how would you go about supporting them?
Yeah, so what we would do initially is we would determine whether they meet our criteria, right? So they would have
Yes.
to say they're factually innocent, and then in your example, let's assume that we're dealing with a case in which the prisoner is convicted of raping a stranger, right?
Yes.
Then our job would be to begin to look for that biological evidence, usually a rape kit and sometimes other items of evidence. And I think we have 83 counties in Michigan. Prior to 2001, there was no law that said that biological evidence had to be maintained. So if a conviction was in the early 80s, we would have to go to each and every agency that may have touched that evidence and reach out to them to try to determine if the evidence is still available. If we're fortunate enough, some agencies keep evidence in cases, particularly cases where the prisoner is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Some of the agencies in Michigan keep that evidence forever, but other agencies don't. And I'm sure that you're both familiar with a number of police agencies throughout the state of Michigan that are now defunct. Right. So in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s, they were vibrant police agencies and they've been closed down. So that evidence could go to the county agency or be transferred or in long-term storage. So that's a big part of the work that we do, is first to determine if the evidence exists. Then if it does, we have to, under most circumstances, we have to ask a court for permission to test that evidence.
What's interesting is I heard a comedian, I wish I could call the person's name, but I can't. But he was making the point that what they do before DNA evidence is like, hey, somebody's been murdered. And wait a minute, there's a pool of the suspect's blood. Oh, well, they just walk off because they didn't have DNA testing and they didn't have any way of determining through, like they do today. And so, he was making light of that fact. So now my question is, how many of these cases that you see, that you deal with, are cases against minorities versus, non-minorities?
Well, we know, generally speaking, that people of color are charged with and convicted of crimes at a much higher rate than whites. So the same is true when you're looking at wrongful convictions, and particularly in violent crimes such as murder and rape. Black individuals are much more likely to be prosecuted and convicted than white individuals. And we also find that there's also a higher rate, particularly in murder cases, of African Americans of being wrongfully convicted.
Yeah, we have a question from one of our viewers, and they're saying, Stephanie Hayes is saying, do you only help prisoners in Michigan? If so, are there Innocence Project organizations in all of the 50 states? Great question. Yes,
there are Innocence organizations in all 50 states, and you can go to a website. It's the innocencenetwork.org, and the Innocence Network is our umbrella organization in which we're a member, and that website will give you a list of any innocence organization in any given state.
Okay. So, I mean, I got a ton of questions. I'm just looking over some notes here. It's like, so what have you found to be the greatest reason or reasons? Well, I think you kind of answered that question, though. You said sometimes people get framed, sometimes it's mistaken identity. So I guess maybe I'll rephrase that question. This mistaken identity thing. I mean, I was just having a conversation with someone, and I brought out the point, and I think I actually posted on Facebook, when particularly minorities are just minding their business, walking down the street, and I'll just go ahead and say African Americans. There's been a number of cases that we've seen on the internet where somebody's just minding their business and the police stop them and say they fit the description. You fit the description. But there's nothing in place for that person after they've been harassed and they're sent on their way or whatever, to follow up to say, well, you said I fit the description. Is there a report, that I can see that I fit the description? Was there the dispatch send you a description that I could take a look at, or, like I said, after this, they've been released or what have you, can I call the precinct and say, hey, last week I fit the description of somebody. Did you all actually catch that person? Because there needs to be some accountability for this, excuse, oh, you fit the description, and it's like, I guess my question is, what maybe, I don't know if you can answer this, but what is being done for these mistaken identities, because this seems like, a problem that's been existing for a while.
Well, again, I think that historically, particularly again in our criminal justice system, eyewitness identification has been assumed to be reliable.
Mm-hmm.
And what we know from the social science, I'm embarrassed to say we've known that since the late 70s, is that all of us as individual people, regardless of our race, are inherently not good at identifying other people.
Mm-hmm.
So Vince, going back to your point about the description, most individuals who provide a description after a crime, even if it's shortly after, right? You have to think about the circumstances surrounding that. If you're a victim of a crime, you're usually under a very stressful
mm-hmm.
situation. And so most of us in reporting a crime don't give a lot of details, right? I mean, if we know the person, we can say that was my uncle, that was my friend Tom. But if we don't, we tend not to be able to provide good details. And so unfortunately, that problem becomes compounded when individuals then who are maybe legitimate suspects, right?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a proper identification procedure. So things like showing a suspect to a victim while it's legally permitted under some circumstances is highly suggestive. And even many police lineups in the way in which they're conducted are suggestive. And frankly, if the police believe they have the right individual, they unconsciously want witnesses to identify them. So as much as we try to be objective in those processes, we're not very good at it. So there are some things that can be done. There are certain protocols we can follow to be better. But again, when you go into a criminal trial, there's two types of evidence that's the most damning. One is eyewitness identification, right? I look at Vince and I say,
He's a great guy.
I would never forget that face, right? And he was that man.
Yeah.
And if I am if I come across as a decent, honest, responsible person, and I might legitimately believe that,
mm-hmm.
it might be an honest mistake. And then the second most damning evidence against most criminal defendants is their own words, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you confess to a crime or make any statements that are arguably incriminating, those are the two most damning pieces of evidence in a criminal trial, and the most difficult evidence to undo, right?
Yeah.
Because the jury finds that type of evidence to be very compelling.
Yeah, I would say they need to put less emphasis on that. I'm not saying that you totally discard it, but you need to really take a look at, kind of how much weight you give to that. I was in a grocery store years ago, and I don't even know if I was bald like I am now. And the elderly lady asked me if I was Michael Jordan. And I'm like, I look nothing like Michael Jordan. I might play like Michael Jordan. I mean, now, maybe she saw one of my games. That's probably what it was. So I should think back on that. Maybe she saw me play somewhere and thought, man, he's just as good as Michael Jordan. Anyway, I digress. We have a question. That was the joke there, Marla. You were supposed to laugh at that, but you missed your cue. Anyway, go ahead, Erica.
Should I laugh about you looking like Michael Jordan or playing like him?
Well, me playing like him is not as funny as me looking like him because I play. So we ain't going to even go there. Anyway. So, Erica, go ahead.
Mogul Millions wants to know, does the Innocence Project help prisoners incarcerated in state and federal institutions?
So our particular organization, Cooley Law School's Innocence Project, because there are Innocence Projects throughout the country, we only assist state court convictions. And because, again, we focus on DNA and forensic cases, most of the cases that we're reviewing in our office are violent crimes such as murder and rape, where biological evidence was, left behind at the crime scene.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, listen, if you're just joining us, we are with Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon of Western Michigan University's Cooley Law School Innocence Project. I did all that from memory. Thank you very much. We are talking about people who have been wrongfully convicted and in some cases get life in prison. And Marla Mitchell-Cichon and her group help these people to get exonerated. That is major. So we're going to be right back right after a short break, and we're going to continue to talk about this topic. Get your questions ready, get your comments ready, and we will share those with Miss Marla, and we'll be back right after this. Hey everybody, it's Vince Elliott saying thank you for your support. Real quick, I just want to come on and say a few things real quick. First of all, you guys are amazing because some of you are supporting the show by viewing us every single week. You're financially supporting, you're telling your family and friends, people are going to the YouTube page, subscribing, hitting the notifications bell. We are growing by leaps and bounds. We got a team now. We got Erica Mack, who keeps the show on track, my co-host. We got a producer, super duper producer, Deidre. She's in the background holding it down. And we are now at a place where we are opening the window of opportunity for sponsorship. That's right. If you know of someone who has a business, or if you yourself have a business whose product or service align with our brand, we want to hear from you. Send us an email at thevinceelliott@gmail.com and we will send you the information. We have packages as low as $100 a week. Can't beat that. Those prices are going to go up as our audience grows, so you want to get in where you fit in. Also, if you want to support the show, simply go to the Cash App now there on the screen, $live with Vince Elliott. 1 L, 1 T in Elliott, so your money gets routed to the right place and gets used appropriately. In the meantime, we will continue to bring you information, education, inspiration, motivation, and yes, a few laughs. Look out for Lil V. He's always trying to get on the show. So in the meantime, let's get back to the show.
The information provided during this program is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. The WMU Cooley Law School Innocence Project only accepts applications directly from prisoners. Prisoners may write the project at Cooley Law School Innocence Project, 300 South Capitol Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48933. For general inquiries, email innocence@cooley.edu.
We are back. I am Vince Elliott. And she is
Erica Mack.
I love it. We are on today with our guest, Professor Marla Mitchell-Cichon. She is the professor over at Western Michigan University of the Cooley Law School Innocence Project. They help to get innocent people who were wrongly convicted exonerated from those long life sentences. And I got a few questions that I want to ask you, but I want to defer and just kind of mention a comment. I'll shorten it up. One of our viewers says that they have a high school friend that received 75 years. They might as well just have to give them life, man. I mean, come on. 75 years for a rape and burglary. They've been in prison since 1980, and the release date is 2054. Says they're innocent, and she's going to look out, pass on your information, and look for them to contact you guys to see if you can assist them. So that's great information, and we'll make sure that we put up information that they can reach out. I know when we talked before the show, you guys have understandably a lot of people that come to you or call you or reach out to you and say, hey, I'm innocent. So it's not like you have a shortage of work.
No.
So I just want you to make it really clear that it's the prisoner who has to reach out, and what, kind of the whole, how people contact you or should they contact you, and that information. So speak to that, and then I've got some other questions for you.
Yes. So the main reason why we ask the prisoner to write to us directly is because, first of all, we want to hear directly from the prisoner that he or she is claiming that they're factually innocent, because we don't help with other legal matters. And then what we do is we send them a questionnaire that they complete and return to us, and that then begins our screening process.
And how do they reach out to you?
The best way for the prisoner to reach out to us is just to send us a letter through the mail. And then what we do is we send them a questionnaire, which is about 10 pages. And we ask a lot of background information about their case. And then, of course, because of our focus on DNA and forensics, we ask them questions related to whether biological evidence was collected, whether there were experts that testified regarding bite mark or tire track impression or fingerprint comparison. The typical things you would see on your CSI shows. We're trying to find out if those types of modalities were used against the defendant.
And that's the same address that we put in the disclaimer. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So we'll put that up again later. It's got music on it, so we won't put it up right now.
What's the typical turnaround time on a response to their application?
We're fairly backlogged right now because sort of for a good reason, because we have a significant amount of federal grant funding, and we're also now, rather than having to go to court and ask for post-conviction DNA testing or present new evidence of factual innocence, we're working with both the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office that has a conviction integrity unit. So the prosecutor's office is actually reviewing cases for factual innocence. And then the Michigan Attorney General's office has a unit as well. So the goal is, rather than to be adversarial, is to work collaboratively and actually use them to assist us sometimes in our investigations. So as we talked earlier about how difficult it can be to find evidence, if we've made every effort to find evidence, but we can't find documentation about what the status of that evidence is, we're now working collaboratively with those two conviction integrity units, and they're assisting us in some of those processes. What that means is that, when you're in prison, you're aware of any new avenues for a legal remedy. We don't have to advertise. Folks are familiar with our program and other innocence organizations throughout the country. So because of this ability to screen cases a little bit differently, we have a bit more of a wait for review. But I wouldn't say wait, right? If you are innocent, particularly if you were involved in a crime where you were convicted that involved biological evidence or some of the things that I've mentioned this evening, you should write to us and get in our queue right away.
I mentioned in the opening when I introduced you, actually, that you have your organization has been successful in exonerating 4 people. So let's talk about the good side of this thing. That there are 4 people right now who are doing whatever it is they want to do because of your organization. Speak to that.
Well, I wouldn't say they're doing everything they wanted to do because the impact of wrongful conviction lasts well beyond the time of release. But I will say that there's no more rewarding experience for a law student or an attorney than to free someone from prison who did not deserve to go to prison in the first place.
You had a case where a guy was in prison for 42 years?
Yes, Mr. Ladura Watkins was wrongfully convicted and spent 42 years in prison for a crime he did not commit.
Wow. So we actually got a picture here of him. And I'm sure he is extremely, his look on his face says it all. It says it all. So that's him on the actual day he was being released, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. And then he went on to do speaking engagements. And this is him at Western Michigan University, I guess, talking about the program and how much it changed his life.
Yeah, he's speaking to the law school there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great.
Yes.
And then talk to me about some of the other ones. You had 4 altogether, right?
Yes. So our first client who was released is Kenneth Wynemko, and Ken spent time in prison for criminal sexual conduct that he did not commit. And not only did the DNA testing exclude him from multiple items collected from the crime scene, but the actual perpetrator was identified. I believe it was about 5 to 6 years after Ken was exonerated. So what happens is if you are lucky enough to get a good DNA profile from crime scene evidence, the government tracks that, and every week they compare known offenders with crime scene evidence. And so not only was Ken exonerated, but the actual perpetrator was identified.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Now
wow.
that's what you call getting it right. Straighten it out, not only to release them, but then you actually found the person. And I think the families who are affected by that, the victims' families are, very pleased about that as well.
When they're exonerated, do they receive any type of what do they call it? Like, I was going to say compensation. At first, I was going to say stipend. It's not a stipend. Compensation for being, in prison for that many years.
Michigan did not have a compensation law. Again, we started working on these types of cases in 2001 when Michigan passed a law to allow for post-conviction DNA testing. We do now have a compensation law which provides payment for each year of wrongful imprisonment of $50,000, and also it provides services to exonerees, because unfortunately when exonerees are released from prison, they get nothing. And if you're paroled, you can access parole services. So while $50,000 a year could never fully compensate someone for time spent in prison wrongfully, it's at least a good start. And then the exonerees, if there has been government misconduct in their case, could potentially have a civil rights action against the police officers or the governmental agencies that are responsible for that. Those are very long, drawn out, and challenging cases. So compensation is designed to be more immediate, but there is a process that the exoneree has to follow. They don't just get it automatically because, for example, the Cooley Innocence Project got you out on Thursday.
No, I think that'll be worth it. Like, you're like, oh yes, I got out. Where's my check? Thank you very much. Next time to go live life.
You make a good point. There is no amount of money that is going to, make you feel like, you know what? I'm glad. I'll trade this money for that time. I can't imagine, at least for me anyway, any amount of money that would make me feel like, wow, if I had a chance to do that all over again, I would. I don't care if they gave me 20 million. I'd like the 20 million, but to miss all of those years, especially in the case where we're talking about Mr. Watkins, they basically took his life, and so I would make the argument, if I were in a position to do so, like, you not only took away their earning potential, you're kind of just reimbursing them $50,000 a year, saying, okay, maybe that's the average or something of a middle-class person. I don't know what their reasoning is, but I would say, no, you need to pay for the fact that I missed my family, grandkids, and, just life in general. And like, y'all messed up. To put it simply, y'all messed up bad. So everybody that gets exonerated, you get, $500,000 per year. I don't care. Just pay the people. Pay them.
Just pay the people.
Just
right?
pay the people. Yeah. Give me. In all seriousness, at least give the people, $150,000 a year so they can actually do something. I don't know. I don't make the laws. Who am I? So.
I mean, the thought I think is a valid thought, but if you just look at it, it's based off, a living wage per year, based off the cost of living, things like that. So I guess I kind of get why they do that. But my next question is, I know we talked a lot about DNA, but however, people are wrongfully convicted outside of just DNA cases or things like that. And I know that Cooley may not necessarily handle that, but are there other places that you recommend them to, or that they could write to, be another state or even just another school?
Yeah. So generally speaking, Erica, in order to raise a claim of factual innocence, you need, whether it's through a court system, whether you're going to a conviction integrity unit, whether you're in Michigan, or virtually any other state in the country, what a court or a conviction integrity unit is looking for is new evidence, something that wasn't before the trier of fact in 1988, 1999, 2006, whenever you went to trial, and showing that evidence would have either proven that the person didn't do it, right? Because in our criminal justice system, if we're accused of a crime, we don't have to prove anything. The government has to prove, each and every element of the crime. But once you are convicted, you're presumed guilty, like the name of the show, right? And so to undo that, really the burden is on the defendant, right, to present that new evidence. It just so happens our program tends to focus on presenting new DNA evidence, but in all 4 of our exonerations, there was other new evidence that played a role in the full picture of trying to demonstrate that this person didn't commit the crime. In Michigan, we focus on forensics and DNA cases, and then the University of Michigan has a program. It's called the Michigan Innocence Clinic, and they focus on other newly discovered evidence. So, for example, let's assume that you went to trial and you were working at the time of the crime, but your attorney was ineffective and he or she did not present that at all or appropriately. And these witnesses now are willing to come forward, right, or sign affidavits. So that would be new evidence of that person's innocence, and those would be the type of issues that the Michigan Innocence Clinic would focus on. So in Michigan, it's usually the Michigan Innocence Clinic or the Cooley Innocence Project. And we collaborate and work together because, again, we don't want to duplicate our resources. So, and then also I just want to remind the listeners that prisoners can now write directly to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office Conviction Integrity Unit. It's run by the prosecutor's office, but it's a non-adversarial process where you can write to them just like you can write to us and claim that you're innocent, and they'll send you an application. And also the Michigan Attorney General's office, which covers the balance of the counties in Michigan. And we collaborate with both Wayne County and the Attorney General's office. So they often refer cases to us that involve DNA testing or forensic practices.
That's
so,
great work.
We're really fortunate in Michigan. These are relatively new programs, but we're really fortunate in Michigan to have these conviction integrity units and have a more collaborative process to correct these wrongs. And I think what I'm hoping you're going to see is a lot more exonerations coming out of our office because we're able to DNA test, we're able to find evidence quicker and DNA test. We're testing in about 4 or 5 cases right now. And 5 years ago, if we had 1 or 2 cases in for DNA testing a year, that would have been a lot. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to really help by this collaborative, non-adversarial process.
Well, we're going to take this last question before we sign off. And man, this is just, this
It's just kind
there's
of
certain shows that just,
now.
it's just really great information. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
No, I said it's kind of like we just started to chisel in.
Yeah,
now,
man.
so
We could
like,
do another
yeah.
hour
You
on
guys
this.
can have me back.
Yeah. There
I
you
have
go.
some pictures I'd like to share in the next show.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Well, see, what you all don't know about this attorney, this professor over here with all these distinguished titles is that, we like to say, when somebody's not showing all of their true colors, we like to say they're a ham. Yeah, Marla, she's she's something else. We've had an opportunity to talk to Marla, get to know her a little bit, and I'm not so sure I want her to show those pictures because I don't know what she's found digging into my closet, virtual closet online or something. That's a whole nother story. She's got some reason for trying to get back at me for some things that I did not even do, but I don't even know why I went there. Anyway, go ahead and ask your question, Eric.
So, Mogul Millions would like to know, how can we support criminal justice reform as a citizen?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. First thing you can do, because as you see, we're out of time and we've barely touched the surface of this issue, is, just dedicate 10 minutes a week to Google the causes of wrongful conviction, and really just as a citizen become educated as a citizen about some of the challenges and problems that we currently have in our criminal justice system, and then reach out to your legislators and let them know that you care about this as a citizen. It's really possible that someone you love could be wrongfully convicted, and there are actually a number of solutions to the causes that we didn't get into all of them. You know, obviously more resources is always a solution to virtually every problem, but there also are other things that either through changing the law or advocacy work to make our criminal justice system better. It's the best in the world, but it needs a lot of improvement. And many of the causes can be corrected by having certain procedures and policies in place.
Now, you sent us a couple links. Are those links, like I see universityofmichigan.edu special exoneration pages, and are those links the type of links you're talking about to get information, or those?
Yes, I sent you, Vince, a link to, people ask that question all the time, what can I do? And there's a link I sent that's a more general one, a more national information, but the information is good in Michigan and all over the country.
Which link is that? We can put that up.
It's the one that says what can I do, or what you can do.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing that one. Is that one?
Yes,
oh,
how
yeah,
you
how
can
you
get involved. I apologize.
Okay, right,
yes, that's it. So that's a good, that's just a one-page fact sheet, and it's very universal. So if people are tuning in from places outside Michigan,
you're doggone right. I got viewers all over the world.
and let me just quickly mention, Vince, that on October 2nd is Wrongful Conviction Day. And there will be national virtual programming. So if people Google Wrongful Conviction Day 2020, you'll start to see some information coming out of our Facebook page, but also nationally. And one of the benefits right now of being homebound for many of us is that we can, there's a lot of more online programming, and there'll be a lot of programming around wrongful convictions in October.
October 2nd is the day.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's been a wealth of information, and like you said, we just scratched the surface. So we may have to have you back on the show, and we'll have to preview those pictures before we put those pictures. Well, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate the information. Thank you for taking the time out to grace us with your experience, your presence. And that was great, man. I love having the shows where, it's information that I don't know anything about. So I get educated during the process.
I didn't say you definitely listening.
Yeah. Not that I'm going to ever need, not that I'm never going to need your services. I'm not saying that, but, I can pass this information on to some other people, that might need those services. So thanks again. We're going to ask you to hang on for a moment backstage while we close out the show, and then we'll go from there. So,
for having me.
Was there any last words that you wanted to say before you see how we cut you real quick, You got any last words for us?
No, just thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone who joined us. Appreciate it.
All right. Now we'll send you backstage. Well, Erica, another one in the books.
Yeah, I was getting ready to roll some more questions off of there, and I was like, oh, we are at time. Man.
Yeah. So. And this is totally off topic, but before I forget, as Mogul Million says, informative show. And I wanted to send a shout out to Tracy. Tracy Robinson had a birthday on Wednesday. Yeah, so...
wrong voice.
You said what?
Wrong voice.
Wrong voice. Oh, yeah. Well, she is a big, huge supporter of Lil V. And, I think she would probably prefer the Lil V, send a shout out. But Lil V didn't make it today. I was able to keep him away from the show. And I don't know if, me saying it carries as much weight, but hey, I put it out there. I know we're not supposed to ask a woman's age or anything like that, or, say anything about a woman's age. But, Tracy and I, we jab each other and things like that. And, she claims that she graduated high school after me. But, I think she looks really good to be in her 70s. I just don't.
You don't pay for that one, though.
And she's not here to get me back. So who knows? She's probably not even watching today. Anyway,
she's going to show up at your front doorstep. What you say? But it was good.
What we want to do is, as we sign off, let's put the disclaimer up again so people can see that address. We'll do that, not right now, but we'll do that just before we do our ending screen. Yeah, just before we do our ending screen, when we totally sign off, we'll do that first, and then we'll do our closing screen. Lastly, as a reminder, folks, you can definitely support us through the Cash App. We did not reach our goal, sadly, for the GoFundMe. However, some of you are still giving through Cash App, which we definitely appreciate. But should you decide to support the show, you see it right there on the screen. I can do like this. Let's see. Cash App, $ live with Vince Elliott. 1 L and 1 T. Yeah, there you go. 1 L, 1 T. So it gets routed to the right place, and we can use that for the support of the show. Appreciate it. Thank you in advance for that. Shout out again to those of you who have been giving. Some of the people have been giving on more than one occasion. And I don't want to start naming names, because if I miss one person, that is bad. That is real bad. So I don't want to do that. But I have you guys in my mind, and I so appreciate you. It pulls on my heartstrings when I see that they gave again. It's like, wow, that's awesome. And what else you got? Anything?
That's all I have. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. Don't drink and drive. It is the holiday weekend.
Oh, that's right. Labor Day's coming up Monday.
It's the holiday weekend, so don't drink and drive. Wear your mask, as they say. Not. I should even say that, because I'm probably not going to have one on. But to each his own. Follow the rules and have fun.
We'll see you next week. Tune in at 7:55 so you don't miss anything. Deidre, we're going to fade this on out, and you can go ahead and run the disclaimer and then our closing screen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to our viewers, our guests, to Erica, to Deidre, to Mariah, to the whole world. We love you. Peace.
The information provided during this program is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. The WMU Cooley Law School Innocence Project only accepts applications directly from prisoners. Prisoners may write the project at Cooley Law School Innocence Project, 300 South Capitol Avenue, Lansing, Michigan, 48933. For general inquiries, email innocence@cooley.edu.